I will, since it's a very small and very short session rather, it's almost 75-minute session with a question answer gap as well. And accounting for entrepreneurs and costing are very vast subjects. So of course we cannot cover the technical details here. But one thing that I would suggest that I will share some links towards the end of the second presentation, which will demonstrate the accounting model for a startup and entrepreneur. It's a YouTube channel, a few videos on the YouTube channel. And then if you are familiar with that model, once you get familiar with that model and you start your accounting on to that model, which is a very simple Excel worksheet model, no software. So then we can talk of the costing and the issues in costing, and we can make it easy rather. We can make it easy. And this we can do in a separate online session, or even if you want, you can come to my office as well, because offices are open, although classes are not open, but offices are open. But you can have a half an hour, we can have a half an hour meeting, and then we can actually discuss the specific queries that you face, inshallah. So anybody else with any feedback, any pointer about this course before we formally start? It's almost 7:30, so I think
Geez, we have some comments on the chat in the chat box. I think they're
chat
answering.
box. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So let me see.
and then we can. I'll give a brief introduction and then we can start.
Hmm. Okay, okay, that's good. That's good. So we have overall a very positive feedback. I think the main takeaway from this course, and which you people need to capitalize on, because I was also part of this course at the very start when Dr. Shahid Qureshi started, and the person like him who is a very good motivator, the main capitalization on this course is that you do something out of the motivation that you get into this course. So whatever time you are into this course, maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever the time period is, you have to do something in this time. Because if you just start taking notes and just making up your mind, but you don't start anything, then probably after a couple of months of this course, uh, there will be a freezing phase. Things will get freeze. So do something within while you are in this course. Try, do some new experiment, try some new things. And in my very first presentation, let me start formally. In my very first presentation, which is uh, right now there, I will share with you not something about accounting, but in the first 15 or 20 or 30 minutes, I will share with you some of my own uh, learnings from the observations and some of the experiences of the startup that I did myself. And being part of a Maiman family, Dr. Shahid usually quote Maiman families as a business-minded families. Being part of a Maiman family, some of the experiences, some of the learnings from my ancestors, especially that are relevant for startups. So that's I'm going to share with you in the very first part of the presentation. Just confirm, you people hear me? Somebody can please confirm. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Are you starting the session formally?
Yes, I am starting.
All
If
right. So,
if this if this
yes,
is
yes,
okay.
it's perfectly fine. But just before you start and I hand it over to you, I would just like to welcome you and I would like to thank you for doing this with CED and for always having supported us in all our programs. Participants, Dr. Asif Qureshi, oh sorry, Dr. Asif Jafar, he has done his ACCA and then he's done his MS in Computer Sciences and he's also done his PhD from Grenoble, the Grenoble Ecole Management Institute at France. He has done it very recently, and it was a very strenuous journey, but he came out with flying colors. And uh, for his experience, he has the experience of working as a deputy manager of accounts at MS Gatron Industries Limited, and he's also worked at Lucky Cement Limited. So, with a vast experience from the professional level, from the corporate side, as well as the academia, it is always an honor to be present in one of his sessions. So, thank you so much, Dr. Asif, for doing this with us and for talking to our participants about your experiences. So, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Taskeen. Thank you for introduction. So, friends, as I told you, I would like initially I would like to share some of my own learnings for based on my own observations of different entrepreneurs. Being part of IBA, I've seen many entrepreneurs and have experiences of some of the startups of my own, which eventually some of them failed, some of them successed, and some of the learnings from my ancestors who were part of the business family. So the very first message that I would like to reinforce is that understand the industry in which you are going to work. So if you have any business idea before indulging yourself into the mainstream business, try to understand the dynamics of the industry. How do we do that? Spare time in related marketplace. So go outside of your home, go.
Participants are requested to please mute your mics and only unmute when you have a comment to make. Thank you so much.
Okay, so if there is a marketplace near you or within the city you are living in, or even if the idea is very attractive and you are passionate about it, you can visit outside the city as well. So spare some time and go to the relevant marketplaces, just without any objective. Just go to the marketplaces, try to listen to the communication between the customers and the suppliers and what is taking place and what are the some of the jargons that the people are using in the market. So you should be familiar with the market in which you are going to operate, in which you are actually going to start your business. Visit and meet people. Try to connect with people and visit them, meet them. Maybe now in the age of a pandemic, you can meet online. To meet people. They may be your potential suppliers, they may be your potential customers, they may be industry experts, they may be somehow related to the industry. So meet them, visit them, have a chit chat with them. There are formal trade associations, even in Pakistan, a country like Pakistan, where many of the things are undocumented. There are, for example, there is a textile association, there is a real estate association, there is a construction industry association. So there are different associations. Just visit the association's website or visit their office, and they have a plenty of information about the industry, about the different players of the industry, about the different dynamics of the industry. So even if you want to go small, if you want to start a very small setup, have some idea about the industry and look for information informally from the internet as well. So internet is very cheap and very easy to access. So these are some of the tips which we can make use of to understand the industry dynamics. The second important message that I would like to convey is to explore the supply chain of the business you are interested in. So for example, if you are interested in school uniforms, so you should be familiar with from where this uniforms raw material is actually coming from. So which industries are supplying the raw material, what are the marketplaces for the raw material like thread and yarn, and then who actually prepares the cloth from the yarn. So what are the major players, which type of cloth is used, and then who eventually purchase the cloth and makes up the uniforms, who are the mainstream tailors in the market who actually work on bulk manufacturing of uniforms, something like this. So understand supply chain. Again, visit the market, see the related people, and then try to connect the scatter plot, because this is something nobody will formally inform you. If you ask any existing business to tell you about his suppliers or his source of supply, nobody's going to answer it. So you need to just connect the dots yourself. So when you will visit, you will be able to see how and where the things are, supplies are coming from. And then you visit next market, the wholesale market, you will eventually get familiar to the main industry where the supply is coming from. And there, this way you can actually connect the dots and establish a full supply chain. Note prices and margins. So when you understand the supply chain, you will have some idea about how the prices are different in the wholesale market, in the retail market. So what are the margins of different dealers? The third important message is that probably you people would have learned in Dr. Shahid's lecture is the Porter's business strategies. So whenever you have a startup idea, and if you want to get into the market, there are three possible strategies to go into the market and have a successful business. This is what the Porter suggested in his earlier framework. Then he has developed some later framework. So one possible strategy is the differentiation, that whatever product you are bringing into the market is in some features different from other players, different from the products being brought by other players in the market. So differentiation means there is something new in your product. Maybe something new, maybe some aspect of the product, maybe the place where you are supplying this product is something unique, or maybe the way you are applying this product is something unique. Maybe the packaging is unique. Maybe the freshness is something special. Maybe some value added thing is included. So whatever the product, if the product is different, then you have what is known as the USP, or unique selling proposition. If you don't go for differentiation, then the second possible strategy portal suggests is the niche market. Is that okay? You don't bother about marketing to all the people. You just bother to market to a very specific class of people, a very specific class of customers, who is your niche target market, and because you are able to serve them better than anybody else. So, for example, if there is a session going on Sundays at IBA main campus, I assume you would have visited IBA main campus. If a session is going on, and on Sundays the canteens are closed, so if somebody brings some juices on that day and have a stall there, he would be able to sell the juices at maybe a 5 rupee premium or 10 rupees premium than the market price, because he is serving a very specific set of customers at a very specific time, and therefore he's charging his premium, he's charging his value addition part. So this is the niche market. So you can do this. Or third, if you don't do any of these two, then the portal suggests then what you can do is you can play on cost rather than playing on the differentiation feature or playing on a different market. You minimize your cost in such a way that although your product is very standard product, which many other players are selling, but you sell it at a reasonably lower price than others because your cost is lower. So whenever you think of a business idea, you think of a product, you should have a fair idea which way you are actually going to market your product. Are you going to earn because your cost is minimum, so you charge less than other players in the market, or are you going to serve a specific class of customers at a specific time? This is the niche market, or you want to differentiate your product. Then the cost strategy is something which is more specific and more interesting for accountants, accounting part, because accounting has to do with the cost. There was a question by one of the participants about the cost as well. So let me select the highlighter. So by cost, I mean, if we go to the cost strategy, so let me elaborate it a little bit more. I remember my grandparent, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather used to say that selling is not an art, purchasing is an art. If you purchase from the market which supplies the product at the lowest possible price, you purchase at the time when you can manage to pay the lowest possible price, then selling is automatically easy, because you have so much of the margin that you can afford to sell below the market price which the other people are charging. So this is the message behind this strategy. And this strategy, when you go to the cost strategy, of course, the target set of customers is a bit different. So if you recall, for example, the vehicles market here in Pakistan, can you imagine which player in the vehicle market is actually playing on the cost strategy, which offers you the cheapest new car? Do you recall which player in market in Pakistan offers you the cheapest new car? Anybody? So you can just speak out. No need to chat. No need to type a chat. Just speak out.
Maybe Suzuki.
Park Suzuki Motors. So you see that Park Suzuki Motors actually has a strategy of playing on cost, whereas Indus Motors or any other motors have some different strategies. They have some new features, some more advanced features in their vehicles. But when it comes to Park Suzuki, the cars marketed by Park Suzuki are the cheapest ones. So they are not bothered about the features or the quality. What they are bothered about is the price and the cost. So similarly, we can adopt in strategies. Very recently, I have experienced myself. So for example, I live at a place where I have, alhamdulillah, a good covered area and open area as well. So what I did, I started exploring the supply chain and market of the cages for the animals, the cattle and the birds. And then after wandering around 3 or 4 markets, I discovered a market which sells the cages at the lowest possible price in Karachi. So it took some time, it took some effort, but I spotted a supplier which supplied me the cages at almost 60% of the price of a standard cage which was available in the market. So what I did then, I purchased few cages for my own birds. And then what I did, I just put them on OLX for selling, for reselling. And actually, my son was the actual player in this context, and he made some good amount of money out of that. He made some profit, although the volume of the business was very low, but he made his own pocket money out of that. So we did it not because our cages or our product was very special, not because it has a very special features, but because we managed to make it at a cost which was very affordable and which was very lower than the standard price being charged by others. So whenever we put the ad on the OLX, there were so many calls. So this was about the cost strategy. And probably the second last tip before we start the discussion on accounting is that if you want an easy entry into the market, then consider some vertical partnerships or some horizontal partnerships with some of the existing players. What I mean by vertical partnership and horizontal partnerships, these are not the standard business terms. These are the terms usually I use in my lectures. By a vertical partnership, we mean that you partner with your suppliers in generating business for them, or you partner with your customers in arranging supplies for them. So it can be an upstream vertical partnership or a downstream vertical partnership. Again, take an example of school bags, for example, or school uniforms. So one of the way I do a business of a school uniform is that I open my own shop or I open my own portal on the Facebook or some other marketplace. And then I make my own dresses and I arrange the supplies and then I advertise and then I look for customers. One easy way to go into is rather to connect with any of the existing players in the market. So for example, if I go for the upstream partnership, I need to connect one of the uniform manufacturers, one of the uniform suppliers. So if I connect with one of the uniform suppliers and I make the terms with them that, okay, I'm going to arrange business for you, I'm going to bring some business for you, and what part of the selling price you are going to offer me as a percentage, as a commission, or as a profit sharing, then you are freed from the entire supply chain load. What you are now focusing on is only bringing the customers. So then you go to different schools and then connect with them and then offer them. And whenever you find a customer, you just connect with the existing partner and you will get your profit. So if you go this way, actually, even if you plan to have your own setup, going this way will give you a plenty of idea about how the market players are doing business, what are the requirements of the customers, what are the special terms and condition on which the suppliers are making supplies. Similarly, this can be a vertical partnership downstream, means you partner with, rather than partnering with your supplier, you partner with your customer. So for example, you can go to some school and say, okay, you want uniforms, you're already arranging uniforms and they might be giving you some expensive. So I will arrange uniforms for you at a very special, at a very, maybe I will do some market research and I will arrange at an affordable price. So whatever number of units you will sell, eventually you will give me some part of the profit, something like this. Although this is a very special question that whether schools should be profiting from the sale of uniforms or not. So this is an ethical question, and I myself against it, but I just am demonstrating this idea based on this school uniform idea. So an easy way to get into the market, once you have a market knowledge, once you have the industry knowledge, is to just connect with some of your suppliers or connect with some of your customers. So you will be relatively freed. If you connect with your customers, then you will be free to just explore the supply side. If you connect with your suppliers, then you will free to explore just the customer side. And horizontal partnership can be partnerships based on the same level of players. So for example, horizontal partnership can work something like uh, if somebody's already doing a business and you want to do the same business, you can just partner with them existing business and then bring some business for them. Maybe an idea, maybe that you are making some uniforms and you go to some showroom and then say that I will display my products into your showroom, and whatever sales are being made, I will give you this much profit, or you will give me this much profit, or you will charge this much rent. So this is a sort of horizontal partnership. By the way, many boutiques and ladies garments are already doing horizontal partnerships in Pakistan. In Karachi, I've seen. Lastly, think and start small. No need to think big. One of the very deceiving part that I have seen in entrepreneurs lectures sometimes, and videos is that if we make up mind of becoming a Bill Gates right from the start, right from the start, then it will be very difficult to even start, and it will be very difficult to continue your business, because you will be frustrated a very short while. You will just go a few steps and you will frustrated that nothing is happening, there is no sufficient profit, and there are challenges, and you are actually targeting to become a Bill Gates, so it will frustrate. So if you ask the Bill Gates, or if you ask any successful business person, I don't think that they will respond that they have that idea at the time of inception when they started their idea, that they will become so popular and so rich and so big. So they started small and they targeted small. So you don't need to target, you don't need to make a goal of a global player or goal of a Pakistan wide supplier, because this should not, I think, it is my personal opinion, you might disagree and you have the right to disagree, but in my personal opinion, your goals should be manageable, your goals should be small, and then eventually you should have a very blurred idea that if things go in the right direction and you get bigger, then okay, you are okay for it, you are ready for it. But think small. This a message that I learned from my experiences. Expand when needed, but gradually and organic. So expansion may be inorganic, expansion may be based on adding too many partners, bringing too much capital from the investors or banks. This is inorganic expansion. And organic expansion is that you gradually expand your business. Time bound yourself for experiments, no early retirement, no waste. So in order to avoid any waste of time, in order to uh, 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 keep investing in a business which is not giving you anything, just time bound yourself, just give yourself plenty of time. So for example, if you decided that you need to work on a certain idea, then just spare that, okay, I am going to work on this idea for a period of maybe 1 year or maybe 6 months, whether it gives you a profit or not, whether it goes successful or not, because in a day or two or a month you won't be able to actually see the actual result of a business. So you need to be persistent, you need to be consistent, but you cannot be consistent for so many years, for example. So give yourself a time, and then be free in that time to do experiments. No early retirement, no waste. If that time expires and you see no charm in the business, then just leave that idea. If you see some charm in the business, then give yourself a plenty of some other time. Okay, my dears, I see there are many messages in chat which I'm not actually observing. So just finishing this presentation, I will give you some time so that you can ask the questions straight away. And don't be strictly cost conscious or accountant at the right start. Don't start doing accounting when you start your business idea, because if you become an accountant, if you become a Maimon sort of mindset, I am myself Maimon, so I can use it for myself. I am accusing myself. So if you are very cost conscious, if you are very accountant at the start of the business, then probably you will not become a successful entrepreneur, because being entrepreneurs, you need to take risks. So if you are asking too many questions, if you are making too many calculations, if you are making too many worries that what happened if this happened, what will be the result if this happens, then probably you are not the right person to start a business. So give yourself a plenty of space to take risk. There is a verse in Urdu. There is a poet has said in Urdu, इरादे बांधता हूँ, सोचता हूँ, तोड़ देता हूँ, कहीं ऐसा ना हो जाए, कहीं वैसा ना हो जाए. तो ये माइंडसेट हमारा नहीं होना चाहिए. मतलब इस बिजनेस स्टार्ट करते वक्त अगर हम इतना डरेंगे तो फिर तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते. तो आप अपने आप को टाइम दें, और वो जो डॉक्टर शाहिद बताते हैं अफोर्डेबल लॉस वाला, अपने आप को एक बजट दें, और उस बजट में कुछ नहीं तो आप कुछ सीख के निकलेंगे एटलीस्ट. So just I think I skipped this slide, and okay. So any comments, any questions before we move on to the next slide?
No, sir.
I would just prefer if you can just ask on the audio rather than on the chat screen. Ji Akhlaq Sahab, if you want to say something, or okay. Okay, so let's.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes,
So my question is basically about partnerships. When we were talking about vertical and horizontal partnerships, I think there is another sort of partnership as well if you are partnering with a friend of yours or somebody who shares the same vision. My question is how important it is to have somebody with you. So basically, when I started with my idea, initially it was because somebody motivated me. He was my supervisor in research, and he motivated me a lot to a point where he said, "कि आपके ideas बहुत commercial है, let's start a company," and we started working on it. And it was both of us who were working. But then when he sort of left because of his work and PhD and everything, so I was left on my own and I didn't pursue. I was so scared of it. So I'm still looking if I can find somebody else to come in and, jump with me in it. Is it wise to have somebody with you having that 50% wala thing that, you are a bit safe on that side? Or is it good to go by yourself?
So there is no scientific answer for this question. I mean, the answer of this question will, even if you ask some experienced business people, they will have different replies. If you ask 10 people, maybe 5 will say different and 5 will say different. So I will, whatever I answer, it's my own opinion. It's my own evaluation. So I would rather say that partnering from the very start, from the very scratch, is always productive if they share the same vision. Just like you said that you and your professor were sharing the same vision, that you have the same idea, you had the same frequency because you were already working on some research idea, some research proposal, you know each other. Otherwise, partnering is, in my opinion, partnering like the one you are saying is beneficial when you bring the project at some condition, when the project is running on its own, when the project starts running, then it is the time that you maybe to expand, you need a partner. Because what I have done, what I have tried, experienced, and what I have learned from my experience, that if I bring a partner forcefully means just motivating it, okay, just come and join me and we'll do this, but he or she does not have the passion that I do have, then actually it doesn't work out that way. So this is the first takeaway from my own experiments. So you bring the project at some workable condition. If the project has some concrete pillars, the project is able to actually produce some revenues, some foundation work has already been done, then yes, you can bring in some partner who can actually work with you, and then you can work on other areas and expand. The second important learning which I have in regard partnership is that if you decide to bring a partner, just trust. Do trust. Don't if you don't trust, then don't bring a partner. So you need to trust, just like you need to trust your own brothers, your own family members, you need to trust the partner. Because there is a saying in the hadith or something like this, that if the partners actually well wish for each other, जब तक partners जो शराकतदार होते हैं वो आपस में एक दूसरे का अच्छा चाहते हैं, तो अल्लाह ताला भी उनका अच्छा चाहता है. Right. So these were the 2 points that I have about the partnership, the sort of partnership that you were saying. Okay, anybody else? Maybe Samina was going to ask some question.
But partnerships in this case can be affordable partnerships, affordable risk.
Yes, the affordable risk principle is always there. Whether you partner, you make a partner, or you not make a partner, it's always the risk is always there. But of course, when we make partners, we need to have some sort of and also this is also very important, that if you partner, put the things in writing. Even if you are partnering with your own brother, put the things in writing, because this is the directive which has been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well, that we need to be very clear about how the profits will be shared, who is going to be responsible for the conduct of the business, what will be the case in the case of liquidation. So whatever the terms and conditions are, these should not be verbal, they should be written. Hamid Sahab, you are going to ask anything?
सर थैंक यू वेरी मच. अस्सलाम वालेकुम ऑल. सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि पार्टनरशिप्स के लिए ये भी तो ज़रूरी है कि सर इसमें हमें ये देखना पड़ेगा कि हाउ इट इज़ गोइंग टू एंड. अगर कोई बिजनेस हमने स्टार्ट किया है और पार्टनर उसमें अगर नहीं चल सकते साथ, तो हाउ इट इज़ गोइंग टू एंड, इसको डॉक्यूमेंट करना सर कितना ज़रूरी है?
बिल्कुल ज़रूरी है, बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं, क्योंकि अक्सर पार्टनरशिप का मसला वही आता है कि जब बिजनेस एक अच्छे लेवल पे आ जाता है तो वहाँ एक पार्टनर उसको जो है वो उस पे बेनिफिट उठाता है और दूसरे पार्टनर को वो बाहर कर देता है, तो इसका बिल्कुल राइट अप में होना चाहिए। दैट्स व्हाई थिंग्स शुड बी रिटन। जितनी चीज़ें राइटिंग में होंगी वो चीज़ें अनसर्टेनिटीज कम होंगी, और यही एक अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला के भी हुक्म है कि हम चीज़ों को लिख लें और लिख के जो है वो अनसर्टेनिटीज को कम करें। ऐसी चीज़ ना हो जिसके बारे में अनसर्टेनिटी हो कि क्या होगा।
बट सर कभी
लेकिन
ऐसा होता है कि
राइट,
सॉरी कभी
थैंक
ऐसा
यू
होता है
सर।
कि लोग बिजनेस अपना स्टार्ट कर लेते हैं बट रिटर्न में कुछ नहीं लिखते हैं और बाद में जब झगड़े हो जाएं तो
हाँ,
वो
तो
फिर
अब
रिटर्न
तो
में
फिर
कहाँ से लेकर आएं?
हाँ, तो अब चूंकि बाद में झगड़े हो जाएं तो फिर somebody has to suffer, मतलब इवेंचुअली झगड़ों को तो निपटाना है, तो somebody has to suffer। अगर सारे पार्टनर समझदार नहीं है और सारे ईमानदारी से काम नहीं कर रहे, then somebody will suffer, but better thing is, that's why the better thing is that you put the things in writing right at the very start.
Okay.
He
और
also
सर
left
मेरा
on
एक और
it.
क्वेश्चन
Yes, yes, yes,
सर मेरा
please.
एक और क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे बर्ड इन हैंड में है कि आप अपने कम रिसोर्सेज के अंदर काम स्टार्ट करते हैं, बट कुछ लोग हैं जो वेल टू डू हैं एंड दे वांट टू स्टार्ट विद अ बिग बैंग, तो उसका क्या है लेटर ऑन इफ दे कांट कंटिन्यू, उसका क्या होता है? मतलब कम रिसोर्सेज में वो नहीं करना चाहते, वो एकदम से एक बड़ा कंपनी बनाकर ही करते हैं।
यस, यू आर राइट। मतलब ऐसे लोग ऑफ कोर्स हैं, बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप, कि जिनके पास इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट है। फॉर एग्जांपल कोई इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट अगर कोई प्रोजेक्ट लगाएगा तो ऑफ कोर्स वो बर्ड इन हैंड के प्रिंसिपल, उसका बर्ड इन हैंड भी तो बड़ा है ना इन अ वे। तो हम जो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पढ़ा रहे हैं, जिस एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को हम लेके चल रहे हैं, वो उन बड़े प्रोजेक्ट्स की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं। उन बड़े प्रोजेक्ट्स के लिए बाकायदा उनकी फिर फीजिबिलिटी स्टडीज बनती हैं। उनकी फीजिबिलिटी स्टडीज बनाने में लाखों रुपए खर्च होते हैं। यानी आप कंसल्टेंट हायर करके लाखों रुपए दे के उनकी फीजिबिलिटी स्टडीज बनती हैं और उसके बाद वो इंडस्ट्रीज एस्टेब्लिश होती हैं। व्हाट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इज नॉट दैट अबाउट। और वो उनको किसी कोर्स में आने की जरूरत भी नहीं है, बिकॉज वो वैसे ही बिजनेस कर रहे होते हैं, उनके पास इतना पैसा होता है और वो उसकी बेस पे जो है बड़े काम कर रहे होते हैं। तो हमारा स्कोप थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट है। इवन उनके प्रिंसिपल्स भी थोड़े से अलग है। मतलब वहाँ तो ये पढ़ाया जाता है, फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट की बुक्स में ये पढ़ाया जाता है, वी टीच इन द फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट बुक्स दैट taking loan on interest is something beneficial for the wealth maximization notion, which is the key of a financial management. But here in the entrepreneurs, in the startup, we say avoid bank loans. Even if it is a Western cultured company, we still say that avoid taking loans. Start on your own resources. Right? So whatever I shared with you were just some of my own learnings from my own observation and experience. So it was just for sharing. So now if there is any question, we can entertain, or we can go to the next part of the presentation, which is about the accounting part. Dr. Ahmed sir, if you want to
जी
ask
सर,
any
एक
question.
बहुत ही थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, वन ऑफ योर शागिर्द, वन ऑफ योर पीपल. I have a bit of experience of teaching and training postgraduate specialist doctors, and I am
Okay.
examiner of the Royal College as well for post graduation and College of Physicians and Surgeons.
Okay.
I think just for the students who are my colleagues today, I think we are doing a small little mistake, not a mistake, but I think we are not understanding one very important point. There is a difference between thinking big and taking big steps. Thinking big means that we have to think big, all of us, and that is why we are here together. Thinking big is not a problem. Anybody can think big, and we all have to think big. Then taking small step or big step, yes, of course, we have to take small steps. So these are two different things, and I think we should not be confusing with this. Otherwise, maybe I have a potential and I have a talent, I could have done a very big thing. But because I was not thinking big, so I was thinking very small. And then I will be a high achiever in my own mind, but I could have done more. And this is very important for those who are care providers. And all of us in some way or other are care providers to our families, to our neighbors. People look towards us. So if I will make a small goal and achieve it and become very happy, and then everybody will say, oh, good, you took a very small step and you got it. So bird in hand does not mean this. If we go more in depth and with the help of teachers like yourself, mashallah, and we are proud of you that you are serving the nation in a way. But I think these youngsters have to think very big, but yes, they have to take affordable risk and small steps. So I think this is very important because one of our colleagues just said, okay, better take the small steps. Yeah, yes, we have to take a small step. Nobody is saying you jump. But if these people who are intellectuals who have joined this course start thinking small as well, that will be a big disaster for the nation because you are the only people who are thinking here for a thought process. So think as high as you can. In my humble opinion, I can be wrong as well. I'm only an individual. But then take a small step, of course, because the biggest journeys start with the small steps. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Good message. Thank you.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, Zara.
It's a very basic thing for me to ask, but I just really wanted to know if you start up a small business, a basic online business, or whatever you are trying to put in place, what are the basic steps to get things in writing? Like if it's a partnership, I understand it's a partnership agreement. But what if it's a solo business? You want to start a small company of small things, maybe a small jewelry, handcraft. What are the basic written elements that are required to have your company on a solid ground? So if it starts to grow over years, you are on a solid written legal uh, ground. That's the question. I hope it makes sense.
In my personal opinion, based on my own observations and experiences, is that if it is a sole proprietorship firm, it's not a partnership firm, then you should not bother too much about writings at the start. So in a country like Pakistan, even starting a business is something very informal. You can start a setup without having any sort of registrations. So one of our participants in one of the course actually was worrying about that, यार मैंने कंपनी बना ली है, 6 महीने से मैं कंपनी बनाने में लगा हुआ हूँ, अब मैंने कंपनी रजिस्टर कर ली है, अब मैं काम शुरू करूंगा. This is not the right way of doing things. You don't need to make a company for doing a business. What you should focus on is your idea and actually converting that idea into some meaningful and workable project. So even for the accounting part, which we shall discuss now in the next presentation that I have just opened, what I recommend, I suggested that you should not bother about the accounting part too much at the start. Because if you bother about the formalities too much at the start, then the core purpose of your project and idea is actually suffered. So you should keep the things informal. I have seen many of the business people at the start. Some of them, many of them rather, not some of them, have no accounts at all. They just have calculations on a piece of paper or some diary or some mobile notes or back of their mind. And then at some point of time, they realize that they need accounting, and then they do accounting. And I personally don't say that they actually suffer, they do something wrong. So at the very start, although it's a good practice to write, to do accounts, but apart from accounting part, if you are worried about writing of something else, then I think there is nothing needed. What you should have a fair idea about is the products that you are dealing in. Yes, of course, for marketing purpose, for advertisement purpose, for the advertisement on Facebook or social media, you need to have some content, some written content, which you should actually display to your customers. But for the purpose of your own record keeping, the only thing you know is a very basic set of accounts, a very basic thing, which can be at the very start. If the idea is very new, it can be very informal. It can be the way you have invented yourself. So this is my little take on it. Right?
Thank you very much.
Okay, friends. So some accounting tips for entrepreneurs. Now we are starting the part which is my specialty. So this is my introduction. The screen has already done it, so I skip it. So what we are going to do in the next 15 to 20 minutes is importance of understanding accounting. Can somebody advise me how much time we are left? Some moderators here?
1 hour.
Sorry?
You have an hour.
50 minutes, I guess.
50 minutes, okay. That's too much, okay, fine. So importance of understanding accounting. Why understanding accounting is important, apart from your entrepreneurial ventures, why understanding of accounting is important. Although accounting is a very specialized discipline, there is a specialized knowledge, there are specialized institutions which which make you specialized in accounting, deliver you accounting education, but a basic sense of accounting, why it is important. Then we shall see some two very important measures which can be covered in the time given to me, which are the break-even point and the return on investment. So one is a future oriented, the other one is relatively a past oriented. So we shall see what does this mean and how it can help you gauge the financial position of your business. And finally, I will share you some links. Okay. समीना, दाल चावल की आवाज आ रही है हमें, तो अगर आप आवाज देती रहेंगी तो फिर हमें पहुंचाना पड़ेगा आपको. Okay. So we move forward. So there is an example. So I ask you a question. You get an order of 20 units of your product in January. You are making, say, wedding dresses. So you get an order for making 20 wedding dresses for your customers in January. You purchase raw materials in February. You manufacture the product in March. You delivered the product to your customer in April, and the customer pays you in May. Question is, which month you earn the income? What is the month in which you get some income? Is it January, February, March, April, or May? Open question. What's your answer?
April, when the goods were delivered.
Any other
May.
answer? May. Any other answers? Good.
May. When the customer pays you.
When the customer pays.
If it is accrual system, then April. If it is cash system, cash-based accounting, then it's May.
Every month.
No, there is no income. Sorry. There is no income.
Even the customer pays in May, there is no income?
Because Jan, Feb, you are using that money, na? So how can you get the money? Because आपका तो सारा खर्चा हो गया.
लेकिन मई में पैसे मिल रहे हैं.
उस पे मई पे हो गया, आपका जैन में हो गया, फेब में हो गया. अब आपको अगर सप्लायर दे रहा है, if he is giving you, तो आपका तो उसमें डिवाइड हो गया ना.
हाँ, नहीं, मई में हमें पैसे मिल गए और पैसे ज्यादा मिले. हमारी जो कॉस्ट थी उससे ज्यादा मिले. हमारी कॉस्ट थी 10,000, हमें पैसे मिल गए 15,000 मई में. ठीक है, तो अब सवाल
लेकिन
ये है
हमारा
कि
हमें अपने जनवरी, फरवरी, मार्च के भी तो देखने हैं ना.
हाँ, सबको मिला के हमारी कॉस्ट 10,000 थी और हमें 15,000 रुपए मिले. जब भी तो प्रॉफिट होगा ना, जब भी तो बिजनेस चलेगा.
5,000 का फिर नफा हो गया और क्या प्रॉफिट हो गया.
हाँ, प्रॉफिट तो हो गया, बट द क्वेश्चन इज ये प्रॉफिट किस मंथ का है? ये जनवरी का है, फरवरी का है, मार्च का है, अप्रैल का है या मई का है? दिस इज द क्वेश्चन.
यही तो मैं कह रही हूँ ना कि प्रॉफिट जो है वो आपको मिल तो गया.
January, I think, because that's the once you spend the money and then you get the profit in May. Maybe.
Okay, so
I think,
yes.
I think it's April. I think it's April. When you deliver the product.
I think it's May.
January, sir.
Okay, so some of the participant might give the answer that divide the income in the 5 months. I think one of you also said कि 5 महीने में divide कर दें income को, अगर income है ही तो, something like this.
Yes, exactly.
So there are different answers. So regardless of the correct answer, it means that this understanding is important. We need to have some rule to establish that when the income is actually recorded. Because if we take this case a little bit forward, इसको थोड़ा सा आप में से जो लोग अवेयर हो सेल्स टैक्स के लॉ से, इनकम टैक्स के लॉ से, तो सेल्स टैक्स का लॉ तो मंथली इनकम टैक्स सेल टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल करने को कहता है. तो मैं किस महीने के रिटर्न में इसको डिस्क्लोज करूं? सवाल ये है ना. ये इनकम टैक्स का रिटर्न कहता है कि जी आप साल की इनकम टैक्स, तो अगर साल बदल जाता है तो मैं किस साल की इनकम में इसको रिकॉर्ड करूं? तो हाँ, तो इसलिए इंपॉर्टेंट मैसेज यहाँ पे ये नहीं है, इस रूल को समझाना पर्पस नहीं है. पर्पस ये है कि देखिए अकाउंटिंग की अंडरस्टैंडिंग बहरहाल इंपॉर्टेंट है. थोड़ी बहुत अकाउंटिंग की अंडरस्टैंडिंग हमें होनी चाहिए ताकि हम इस किस्म के सवालों को एंटरटेन कर सकें. बाय द वे, इस क्वेश्चन का जो आंसर है वो अप्रैल है. और जैसे कि कुछ लोगों ने कहा भी, क्योंकि अकाउंटिंग में रूल ये है कि इनकम उस वक्त रिकॉर्ड करते हैं जब आप गुड्स या सर्विसेज डिलीवर कर देते हैं. यानी जब आप गुड्स या सर्विसेज डिलीवर करते हैं, और इसका बड़ा आसान सा टेस्ट है ना, बड़ा आसान सा टेस्ट है. फर्स्ट करें जनवरी में मुझे ऑर्डर मिला और किसी वजह से मैं ऑर्डर को फुलफिल नहीं कर पाया, तो क्या मुझे आमदनी होगी? आंसर इज नो. फरवरी में मैंने रॉ मटेरियल परचेज कर लिया, लेकिन किसी वजह से मैं मैन्युफैक्चरिंग नहीं कर पाया, डिलीवर नहीं कर पाया, विल आई अर्न एन इनकम? आंसर इज नो. मार्च में मैंने मैन्युफैक्चर कर लिया लेकिन कस्टमर तक नहीं पहुंचा, कस्टमर तक पहुंचने से पहले ही भाई लोग उठा के ले गए मिसाल के तौर पे, क्या मुझे कस्टमर पैसे देगा? आंसर इज नो। अप्रैल में जैसे मैंने प्रोडक्ट डिलीवर की, ऑल्दो अप्रैल में पैसे नहीं मिले लेकिन पैसे रिसीव करने का राइट एस्टेब्लिश हो गया। अब लाजमन कस्टमर ने पैसे देने, यानी थ्योरेटिकली कॉन्सेप्चुअली चूंकि कस्टमर को गुड्स पहुंच चुकी हैं तो अब कस्टमर पाबंद है पैसे देने का। तो वो बदमाश और ना दे वो अलग बात है, but other than that the customer is obliged to pay once the goods or services have been delivered. So that's why accounting says that the income is to be recorded when you deliver the goods or deliver the service, although you receive payment in May, but income belongs to April, not May, right? If we make this question a little bit more complex, what if the half of the money is paid in advance in January? अगर आधा पैसे मुझे जनवरी में दे देता, वो एडवांस दे देता, तो भी इनकम जनवरी की नहीं थी, इनकम फिर भी अप्रैल की थी। So how did we have recorded the receipt of cash in January? हम कहते हैं कि वो जो जनवरी में पैसे मिले हैं ना, वो तो कर्जा है, वो मेरी आमदनी नहीं है। क्यों कर्जा है? क्योंकि या तो मैं उनको गुड्स डिलीवर करूंगा, और अगर गुड्स डिलीवर I am not able to deliver the goods, then I have to refund the money which I have taken as advance. So this is a liability or loan upon me in January. It will be converted into an income in the month of April when I will be delivering the goods. So the entire money that I have received in January, half the money will be my income, and half the other money which I will receive in May is also my income to be recorded in April. So there are different protocols to record. उसके मैं आपसे इंशाल्लाह इस वीडियो के इस आज की इस प्रेजेंटेशन के एंड पे कुछ वीडियो चैनल में आपसे शेयर कर रहा हूँ. But the thing is के the rule, as a matter of rule, we need to know is that when you deliver the goods or deliver the service, the income is to be recorded. Apply this concept to the prepaid or the easy paisa, or not easy paisa, but the I mean जो आप मोबाइल पे प्रीपेड में जो मोबाइल में आप क्या कहते हैं उसको अपलोड करते हैं मोबाइल का जो बैलेंस, ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल
ऑनलाइन
हाँ, सो
टॉप अप
जो आप करते हैं मोबाइल में, तो जब आप टॉप अप करते हैं तो थोड़ी देर के लिए सोचेंगे जो टेलीनॉर है या जो वारिद है या जो जैज है, वो टेक्निकली अगर इस प्रिंसिपल को सामने रखें तो वो किस मंथ में इनकम रिकॉर्ड करेगा, क्योंकि टॉप अप तो आपने कर लिया लेकिन सर्विस तो डिलीवर होगी जब आप उसको यूज करेंगे। तो फॉर एग्जांपल टॉप अप आपने अप्रैल में किया लेकिन सर्विस तो आप यूज करेंगे कुछ मई में, कुछ जून में, कुछ जुलाई में, 3 महीने के लिए अगर आपने पैकेज ले लिया है तो इसका मतलब उसकी तो इनकम भी जो वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेगा वो मई, जून और जुलाई में। कॉन्सेप्चुअली मैं कह रहा हूँ, मैं इस बात को कॉन्सेप्चुअली उसको डिवाइड करनी चाहिए थी। उसकी डिफरेंट रिपरकेशंस हैं। अगेन आई वुड से रूल को डिस्कस करना इज नॉट द पर्पस इज दैट व्हाई अकाउंटिंग, अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ अकाउंटिंग इज इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज अकाउंटिंग enables you answer these type of questions. What happens if we add the complexity of warranty and returns? That whatever dress or whatever product we have given, there is a 1-year warranty, or there is 3 month or 10 days replacement or return kind of things. So the situation is getting more and more complex. So accounting actually help us in these situations. Okay. Another example. You partner with Fazal by investing rupees 20,000 for a cattle. He has to take care of cattle in his village. So you invested 20,000 rupees, he purchased a goat, and then he is responsible for looking after the goat, and then profit sharing is agreed at 50-50%. So what he did from 20,000, he constructed a shed area with rupees 3,000, a sort of a house for the goat, and then he bought a goat for rupees 17,000. Later he sold the goat for rupees 30,000. Right, so these are the numbers. My question is, what is my profit? What is your profit?
To take care of cattle.
What is your profit?
Profit sharing is agreed of it.
5,000?
5,000? Agree? All people agree on 5,000? Should the
Yes,
5,000 be the
5,000.
profit I should be getting?
No, sir, you will be getting 6,500.
Sorry?
6,500.
6,500.
6,500 should be the profit.
As 3,000 is an investment in immovable asset.
If 6,500 is the profit, if we take 6,500 as a profit, it means out of rupees 30,000, I get my 20,000 back. So 10,000 remains. Then from the 10,000, I get my 6,500 share of income. Then how much remains for Mr. Fazal? Just 3,500. right? So again, some of you would say 5,000. 5,000 is also the wrong answer. 6,500 can be correct answer, but can be a wrong answer as well. So what we need to take care here is that what we are doing is, if we deduct 17,000 from 30,000, then we get 6,500. So if 6,500 is correct, then what about the shed area? यानी अगर मैं 5,000 प्रॉफिट डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करता हूं तो होगा ये कि 30,000 में से 25,000 मुझे मिलेंगे, 20,000 मेरा मुझे वापस मिल जाएगा. I will get my 20,000 back. I will get 5,000 profit, and Mr. Fazal will get 5,000 profit. But he will be profiting more than me because he will have a constructed shared area available to him, which he can use later on for his business. Are you getting it? So he is getting more than 5,000 because he is getting 5,000 cash, and then he is getting a constructed shade area which he can use for his business, whereas I am just getting my 5,000. So 5,000 is not the correct answer. If we get 6,500, then probably he will get the cash 3,500, because out of 30,000, I will get back my 20,000. I will get 6,500, my profit share. Then the left cash will be 3,500. So he will get 3,500, and he will have a 3,000 worth of the shed area, which makes the total of 6,500. So that can be relatively a correct answer, or even that can also not be a correct answer. So what exactly we need to do this in this kind of situations? We need to do is, we need to value the shed area towards the end of the year. So if it was a year-long project, we constructed a shed area for 3,000. But towards the end of the project, maybe the shed area's value is less than 3,000 or more than 3,000. So we need to value the shed area. We need to agree on the value of the shed area. First करें आपके और फजल के दरमियान एग्रीमेंट हो जाए कि हाँ भाई shed area की जो आज की वैल्यू है ना वो 2,000 है. It means now you have 30,000 of cash plus 2,000 of shed area. So you have a total of 32,000 towards your disposal. And the original investment was 20,000. So the profit is 12,000, and 12,000 divided by 2, 50 is 6,000. So although it does seem a bit complex here, we don't have a whiteboard which I can use. Or I can rather try to use whiteboard as well. So this is the whiteboard, right? So I say my total was 30,000. I get back my 20,000, and then I get back my 5,000. First scenario के अगर हम 5,000 का profit रखते हैं तो 25,000 तो मुझे मिल जाएंगे, तो बाकी किस उसके लिए फजल के लिए कितने बचेंगे? Fazal will get only 5,000. So Fazal will get 5,000, but Fazal will also get plus shed area. So he will get the constructed shed area free of cost. He has not invested a penny. So it means this is not a just distribution. So this is wrong. If we take 6,500, then it means I will get my 30,000, then I will get out of 30,000, I will get my 20,000, then I will get 6,500. It means 3,500 will be left for Fazal plus shed area, which is 3,500, which is 3,000. So it does make it 6,500 for his share as well. So it can be a correct solution, as I said, only if we agree that the share area is still being valued at 3,000, right? तो अब यहाँ पे जो एक्चुअल क्वेश्चन था हमारा, वो क्वेश्चन ये है कि इस किस्म की सिचुएशन में पहले आपको ये एग्री करना पड़ेगा कि जब भी आप बिजनेस खत्म करते हैं तो जो जो चीजें बिजनेस के पास हैं उनकी वैल्यू निकालनी पड़ेगी आप. देखिए इस वक्त यहाँ पे जब हम बिजनेस वाइंड अप कर रहे हैं तो हमारे पास क्या है, 30,000 रुपए का कैश है, और हमारे पास एक कंस्ट्रक्टेड शेड एरिया है जिसकी कॉस्ट 3,000 थी, लेकिन उसकी आज की वैल्यू नहीं पता हमें. हो सकता है 3,000 से कम हो सकता है लोहा महंगा हो गया हो तो 3,000 से ज्यादा हो. तो हमें उन तमाम चीजों की वैल्यूएशन निकालनी चाहिए जो बिजनेस के पास हैं. उसके बाद उसकी बेस पे जो ओरिजिनल इन्वेस्टमेंट थी,
मैं तो निकाल के देती हूँ चेक के लिए,
ओरिजिनल
दिखाना नहीं
इन्वेस्टमेंट को
निकाल.
माइनस करेंगे, और जब हम ओरिजिनल इन्वेस्टमेंट को माइनस कर देंगे तो इसके बाद हमारे पास आएगा कि प्रॉफिट क्या है, और उसके बाद हम प्रॉफिट को शेयर करेंगे. सो अगेन द पर्पस इज नॉट टू टीच यू हाउ टू शेयर द प्रॉफिट. द पर्पस इज टू थ्रो लाइट ऑन द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ अकाउंटिंग. क्यों अकाउंटिंग जो है वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. Another example. Both Maria and Faria are earning rupees 40,000 per month from their separate businesses. Faria has invested rupees 100,000, whereas Maria has invested rupees 500,000. Are both business equal in terms of their profitability? Both of them are earning 40,000.
No, sir.
No. So what is making difference? They are earning the same amount of money.
Investment value, sir.
It should be 1:5 ratio.
Right. So actually this capital is actually making the difference. So that we can say that Faria is invested only 100,000 and she is making 40,000. So the ratio is she is making 40%. Whereas Maria is invested 500,000 and making 40,000. The ratio is actually just 8%. Right. So this is the way that accounting lets us evaluate, compare different businesses across businesses. Another example. Both Rahim and Kareem earn rupees 20,000 per month and have invested rupees 50,000 in their separate businesses. दोनों की income भी same है, दोनों की investment भी same है. यानी यहाँ तो investment अलग थी ना, so here the income is same, also the investment is same, but the only difference is that Rahim is also serving for a local manufacturing company and gives his part time to his business, whereas Kareem is full time engaged in his business. So can we say both businesses are equally profitable?
No, sir. Because
Again,
one is doing job, another is fully engaged in his business.
Okay.
So time value of money.
So it means that the opportunity cost or the value of the services of Kareem is being put in the business, whereas Rahim is giving his services to another company. So he's earning some more money from other sources as well. So again, this is the concept of opportunity cost we count in our accounting. So maybe some of the startups that I have seen, we had some programs of ladies, women entrepreneurship in IBA. So what we saw and we realized that some of the women which are doing the business, they are making one of their own rooms, bedrooms, one of their own room they have spared as a showroom of their boutique. They have been consuming the electricity for which they are paying the domestic bill, but they are not accounting for the cost of the electricity into their business expenses. They're not counting the rent of the room, the opportunity cost of the room, because if the room was not being used by the business, it could have been used somewhere else. Similarly, if they are using their mobile phones for their businesses and they are using their personal car for the businesses, they are using fuel of the personal car for the businesses. So these are the things which need to be taken care of while working out the profitability of a business. Again, the focus is not to learn or to teach you accounting at this point of time. The focus is that why accounting is important, because these are the things we need to take care while working out the profitability of businesses. Then one more thing which I would say as accounting sense, I label is accounting sense, which needs to be there in every business person, whether he is doing a proper accounting or not. Like in writing checks. Do you know what are the protocols of writing checks? I think all of you have been exposed to writing checks. What are some of the things you need to take care about while writing checks?
First thing, it should be crossed.
चेक लिखते वक्त जब आप फिगर अमाउंट जी,
it should be crossed.
So one of the things is that you actually cross the check because you want to make it you want to transfer the money to a particular account rather than withdrawal of cash or something like this. So there is a concept of crossing. There's a concept of closing as well. When you write the amount, for example, 50,000, then after the last zero, you put a slash and then a dash or equal sign to close it so that nobody can insert another zero. Similarly, you write the amount in words as well. So in the check, there is always given that you write the amount in words as well. Then you sign the check as well. So these are some of the things. You write a date as well. So these are some of the protocols of writing checks. And if you go towards the history and the evolution of how this entire mechanism evolves, then you would realize, you would see, we don't have time to discuss those stories. You would realize and see that earlier, when these protocols were not there, there was a misuse, there was a manipulation, there was a fake transfer of funds from one account to another account. Similarly, accounting sense require you in signing and approving bills. So for example, if you sign a bill or approve a bill, you should take some precautions in terms of कि ऐसा तो नहीं हो रहा कि वो बिल 2 दफा साइन हो जाए आपसे, आपके पास 2 दफा हो जाए, आप 2 दफा साइन करते हैं और 2 दफा आगे पेमेंट हो जाए. तो आप सोचें उसके लिए आप क्या प्रिकॉशंस लेते होंगे, ऐसी क्या चीजें करते होंगे कि कोई इस बात का डेंजर ना रहे कि कोई वेंडर आपको एक ही बिल 2 दफा दे दे और आप 2 दफा साइन कर दें और 2 दफा आपके अकाउंट से पेमेंट हो जाए, या आपका कैशियर आपको 2 दफा पेमेंट कर दे। व्हेन यू कास्ट और कैलकुलेट, जब हम कैलकुलेट करते हैं, कास्टिंग कर रहे होते हैं, तो आपने देखा होगा हम कॉमा लगाते हैं, है ना। वो कॉमा की भी कुछ प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं कि वो अगर हम ब्रिटिश सिस्टम फॉलो करते हैं तो 3 डिजिट के बाद लगाते हैं, अगर हम हमारा सिस्टम फॉलो करते हैं देन वी पुट द कॉमा साइन आफ्टर first 3 digits and then after every 2 digits. Similarly, if we write numbers in a list form, then we make sure that the unit is below the unit, the 1000 is below the 1000, the 100 is below the 100. So some people do this, some people don't. So accounting sense requires that whenever you put a list of amounts, then you need to be careful about these things. When you purchase and spend money, so you need accounting sense when you write numbers. So for example, I just said that they should be in an order of units, and the indentation should be very proper. And when you present information, so this accounting sense actually reflects when you actually do your day-to-day businesses, so that accounting sense is reflected. So what is the takeaway from this slide is that when you as an accounting student have a fairly good knowledge of accounting, not a knowledge of accounting of a chartered accountant level, but have a good basic understanding of accounting, you are very much careful about these things. You are very much organized into writing numbers. You are very much organized when you purchase and where you spend money. So for example, one of my friend, I remember when my friend's friend, when they go to dining, while paying the bill, he always used to make total. He was an accountant, so he was very much worried about whether ऐसा तो नहीं कि यार amount तो वही सही लिखी हो लेकिन total गलत कर दिया, something like this. So these things surface, these things automatically are part of your nature when you are used to the accounting knowledge. Some of the suggestions: keep things simple for you if you are understanding at the start, but keep them. रिकॉर्ड जरूर करें. अभी किसी पार्टिसिपेंट ने सवाल पूछा था कि हम क्या लिखें क्या ना लिखें, तो अकाउंटिंग के लिए तो फिर एडवाइस ये है कि आप कहीं ना कहीं रिकॉर्ड जरूर करें. मैं सजेस्ट नहीं करता कि आप किसी स्टार्टअप के अंदर फॉर्मल अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर लें, या आप कोई एक्सेल के अंदर बहुत ही फॉर्मल किस्म की अकाउंटिंग जो है वो स्टार्ट से करना शुरू कर दें. अपनी एनर्जीज को, अपनी एनर्जीज को अकाउंटिंग पे ना लगाएं, अपनी एनर्जीज को अपने आइडियाज पे लगाएं, बट कीप द रिकॉर्ड समवेयर और अनदर. If you are getting receipts when you spend money, keep the receipts at some proper place. If you are spending a money and you don't get any receipt, then do write in some diary or something like this, where you have some sort of noting of whatever expenses you are making, whatever commitments you are making, whatever contracts you are signing, or something like this. And be consistent. Devise a very simple format, a very simple and consistent format for you, and keep it. Don't be, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि कभी तो आप डायरी में लिख रहे हैं, कभी अपने कैलेंडर में लिख दिया, कहीं आपने मोबाइल पे नोट रख दिया, कभी आपने पर्ची लिख के जेब में डाल दी, कभी आपने जो है ना किसी को मैसेज कर दिया. आजकल ये भी चीजें हो रही होती हैं कि रिकॉर्ड के लिए एक दूसरे को मैसेज कर देते हैं. If you keep the things scattered, then at one point of time you will realize that things are out of your control. So maybe you can just have one diary or one mobile note or one small piece of app in the mobile, and just you keep your notes there, maybe informal. At some later point of time, when you feel need, you can actually formalize it very easily if the things are at one place. Be adaptive to your business requirements. So the key message is that consider formal accounting when you feel it's need. Accounting should not be guiding your business, rather your business should be actually guiding your accounting. Your business should be speaking, your business should be actually noising so that you need accounting. So this is my take from my own experience and observation. You should not be worried about the accounting from the very start. You should take notes, maybe formally, informally, in a consistent way, but you should not be bothered about a proper accounting software or something like this at the very start. One more thing, you should, if your business is not at the very inception, if you have started rolling your ball, then maybe you should do your monthly bottom lines. You should work out at the end of every month, what are your income, what is your profit from that particular month. And this is due when your business has started giving you some earnings. If it has not started giving you some earnings, if it is at the inception stage, you are working on your ideas, you are working on the product prototypes, or you are just have finished 1 or 2 customers only, then probably you don't need monthly accounts. Once you have done it, and once the revenue stream has been started, then it's better to keep a record in the same diary, from the same informal information. Give yourself 1 hour or 2 hours to compile all the information in the way you think appropriate at this point of time, and then work out what is your bottom line profit for the first month or the next month and the next month, so that you can compare, you can have your progress. Know your break-even point when you make no profit, no loss. This should be done at the very start of the business, even before starting the business. So our next topic is break-even. Okay, so everybody's on board. I think it's a dinner time, so maybe some people, some people are worried about the dal chawal and something like other stuff in the dinner. But I assume at least few people are here and they are really here. कुछ आवाजें आ जाए मुझे यस की तो मैं थोड़ा सा एनर्जाइज हो जाऊं, क्योंकि भूख तो मुझे भी लग रही है।
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are here, sir. We are here for you, sir.
So we are also so much energetic.
Yes, sir. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, alhamdulillah. So break even point निकालना बड़ा आसान है ना, और वैसे तो हम अकाउंटिंग कोर्सेज में फॉर्मूले से समझाते हैं, लेकिन मैं एक छोटी सी एग्जांपल देके आपको समझा रहा हूँ। और ये ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट का मतलब ये होता है कि हम ये वर्कआउट करें कि हम कितने प्रोडक्ट सेल करने चाहिए हमें हर महीने या हर साल या हर 6 महीने, जो भी आप पॉइंट ऑफ रेफरेंस पीरियड लेते हैं, कि हम एटलीस्ट हमारी सारी कॉस्ट रिकवर कर लें। यानी हम नो प्रॉफिट नो लॉस पे आ जाएं। ठीक है, प्रॉफिट ना हो, लॉस भी ना हो, कम से कम इतना तो हो कि जो मैं खर्चे कर रहा हूँ वो खर्चे तो रिकवर हो रहे हैं। अब उसको नॉर्मली हम बिजनेस स्टार्ट करने से पहले एक आइडिया लेके कर रहे होते हैं, और उसके लिए हमें जो चीज़ चाहिए होती है वो ये चाहिए होता है कि आपके जितने भी खर्चे हैं, आपकी जितनी भी कॉस्ट हैं, उन कॉस्ट को आपको डिवाइड करना पड़ता है फिक्स कॉस्ट और वेरिएबल कॉस्ट। फिक्स कॉस्ट किसे कहते हैं?
सर फिक्स कॉस्ट होती है जिसका ताल्लुक रेवेन्यू से नहीं होता, वो इनकम होनी होती है मंथली बेसिस पे।
बिल्कुल,
आपके यूटिलिटी बिल्स हो गए, फिक्स सैलरीज हो गई, और जो भी आपकी कॉस्ट वगैरह।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। सो दे आर नॉट डिपेंडेंट ऑन योर बिजनेस वॉल्यूम। यानी अगर मेरी नीस है, वो घर में केक बनाती है ना, और केक बना के वो मेक टू ऑर्डर सप्लाई करती है, उसकी फिक्स कॉस्ट क्या होगी? ऐसी कॉस्ट जो नंबर ऑफ ऑर्डर्स पे डिपेंड नहीं करती, नंबर ऑफ केक्स पे डिपेंड नहीं करती, वो फिक्स है। ठीक है, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर उसने कोई असिस्टेंट रखा हुआ है जो उसके लिए हर रोज आके 1 घंटे काम कर देता है फॉर एग्जांपल, या कर देती है, तो वो उसकी फिक्स कॉस्ट है, क्योंकि उसको वो सैलरीज दे रही है, चाहे ऑर्डर हो या ना हो, उसने 1 घंटे आना है। इसी तरह अगर उसने एक छोटा सा ऑफिस बनाया हुआ है या किचन बनाया हुआ है जिसमें वो रोजाना 1 घंटा जो है वो होती है, चाहे केक हो या ना हो, वो वहाँ बैठती है और अपने लैपटॉप लेके वो उसकी मार्केटिंग कर रही होती है, तो वो जो लैपटॉप का इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कंज्यूम हो रही है या उससे रिलेटेड जो एक्सपेंस हैं, कि सेल हो या ना हो, वो एक्सपेंसेस इंकर करने हैं, तो इसको हम कहते हैं फिक्स कॉस्ट। इसके मुकाबले में वेरिएबल कॉस्ट वो होती है जो मेरी सेल के साथ साथ बढ़ती है। सेल होगी तो वो कॉस्ट होगी, सेल नहीं होगी तो वो कॉस्ट नहीं होगी। फिक्स कॉस्ट की एग्जांपल में तो सैलरीज है, रेंट है। वेरिएबल कॉस्ट की एग्जांपल में मेरा रॉ मटेरियल है सबसे बड़ी वेरिएबल कॉस्ट। यानी अगर मैं केक बना रहा हूँ और केक बना के सेल कर रहा हूँ, तो उस केक में जो रॉ मटेरियल चल रहा है वो मेरी वेरिएबल कॉस्ट है, क्योंकि जितने ज्यादा केक बनाऊंगा उतनी ज्यादा मेरी कॉस्ट इंकर होगी। So what we need to work out for the break-even point, we need to have a fair idea about the fixed cost. और हमने एग्जांपल ले ली कि अगर हमारी फिक्स कॉस्ट 32,000 पर मंथ है, ठीक है, और हमारे पास आइडिया होना चाहिए कि हमारी वेरिएबल कॉस्ट एक यूनिट पे कितनी है, पर यूनिट वेरिएबल कॉस्ट कितनी है, क्योंकि वेरिएबल कॉस्ट तो बढ़ती रहेगी, जितने ज्यादा यूनिट्स होंगे उतनी बढ़ेगी। तो हम टोटल वेरिएबल कॉस्ट को तो नहीं बता सकते, लेकिन हम ये बता सकते हैं कि हमारी एक प्रोडक्ट पे वेरिएबल कॉस्ट कितनी आ रही है। तो यहाँ हमने एज्यूम कर लिया कि एक प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर हमारी जो वेरिएबल कॉस्ट आ रही है वो 1200 आ रही है। 1200 कैसे आ रही है कि ₹1000 उसकी रॉ मटेरियल की कॉस्ट है, और उसके डिलीवरी चार्जेस जो है वो ₹200 है। बना के हम उसको डिलीवर करके देते हैं, तो बाइकिया को हम ₹200 देते हैं। So our variable cost in this particular example is ₹1000 plus ₹200 for delivery. So 1200 per unit is the variable cost. 32,000 is assuming my fixed cost. And now the third thing which I need to have a break even is my selling price. So I need to have a fair idea of my selling price. So assume that I'm going to sell my product at 2,000 units, ₹2,000 per unit. Then I can work out how many units I need to sell to cover these costs. It's very easy. If I am selling at 2,000 and every unit is costing me 1,200, it means how much I am saving in every unit. So 2000 minus 1200, 800. So this is known as a contribution margin for 1 unit, contribution margin per unit. It means whenever I sell 1 unit, I will make a revenue of 2000, income of 2000 minus expenses cost of 1200. So I will make 800 rupees. Now I need to make 32,000 rupees because this is my fixed cost. So how many units I need to sell? So I simply divide this 32,000 by this 800. So 32,000 divided by 800 will give me the number of units required to sell to have a total saving of 32,000, which will be sufficient enough to cover my fixed cost. So if I sell 40 units, for example, which is 32,800, then I will be able to make no profit, no loss. Let's verify it. 40 multiplied by 2,000 is 80,000. So my income will be 80,000. 40 multiplied by 1200 is 48,000. So my variable cost will be 48,000. So 80,000 minus the cost of variable cost 48,000. So 32,000 is my contribution margin. And then 32,000 में से 32,000 fixed cost minus करेंगे तो हम zero पे आ जाएंगे. तो इसका मतलब कि अब मुझे मेरे पास business के start में ही मेरे पास एक fair I have an idea that I should sell 40 units to make no profit, no loss. And it is equally possible that in the initial month I may sell less than 40 units. But eventually, I should have a target that eventually, when the business is actually established, it is giving me a good amount of revenue. Then eventually, I need to sell at least 40 units so that my total costs are recovered. I am becoming not losing money rather than generating money. So the formula for break-even then eventually becomes break-even point in terms of number of units. The number of units is the fixed cost divided by the contribution margin per unit. And how do we work out the contribution margin per unit? It is actually the selling price minus variable cost per unit. So selling price is also per unit, variable cost is also per unit. तो इन दोनों को माइनस कर देंगे तो एक यूनिट के ऊपर मेरे पास इमीडिएट प्रॉफिट जो है 800 का है, जिसको हम कंट्रीब्यूशन मार्जिन कहते हैं, फिक्स कॉस्ट से डिवाइड कर देंगे, we will get the break-even units. So here's an example. A company is selling cough syrups, for example. Selling price is 30. And variable cost per unit, raw material cost per unit, for example, is 15, and fixed costs are 120,000. How many units the company should sell in order to break even? So what we need to do, we need to divide this 120,000 by the contribution margin. How much amount we are saving on 1 unit? So if I sell 1 unit, I will generate 30 rupees, but I will have to incur a cost of 15 rupees. So I'm saving 15 rupees, 30 minus 15 from 1 unit. So my contribution margin per unit is 15. I am saving 15 rupees as immediate profit on every unit. So how many units to sell to recover a cost of 120,000? So I simply divide 120,000 by 15 and I will have the answer. Can you tell me what is the answer? 120,000 by 15. कोई है mathematics का चीटा जो calculator के बगैर solve कर ले? Okay, one last measure, important measure is the return on investment. देखें दो कंपनीज हो ना, एक हो पार्क सुजुकी और एक हो मेट्रो या चेज डिपार्टमेंटल स्टोर. आप दोनों की सेल्स को कंपेयर नहीं कर सकते, दोनों के प्रॉफिट मार्जिन्स को कंपेयर नहीं कर सकते. मेट्रो जो है वो 7 लाख रुपए पे जो है उसका प्रॉफिट मार्जिन हो सकता है 50,000 हो, लेकिन पार्क सुजुकी अगर 7 लाख रुपए की गाड़ी बेचती है तो उसका प्रॉफिट मार्जिन 7 लाख में से 2 लाख रुपए होगा. So we cannot compare. हम नहीं कह सकते कि Park Suzuki is better than a retail store. So we cannot compare profits across industries. We cannot compare sales across industries. What we can compare across industries, which is a very meaningful ratio, is the return on investment. यानी आप आसानी से compare कर सकते हैं ये वाला ratio कि अगर मैं ये निकालूं कि यार profit upon investment क्या आ रहा है. So you can compare Park Suzuki with a retail store, with a hospital which is established for business purposes, and many other businesses. So this is a return on this investment can be worked out by dividing your profits, annual profits, with your total investment. Example, if I have a total investment of rupees 200,000 in a business, and by my business is annually producing an income of rupees 32,000, it means my return on investment or ROI is profits divided by investment, profit 30,000 divided by 200,000, which is 15%. So this is 15% can be easily compared with the existing returns in the market. So for example, if I put my money in an Islamic banking account, it gives me an annual 8% or 9%. If I keep my money in an interest producing account, in a conventional bank account, it gives me maybe 11% or 12% per year. But in the business, I am earning 15%. Or if I put this money in stock market, then the average return on the stock market, for example, is maybe 25% or 30%. So we can easily compare a return on investment with any business to establish, to compare, to evaluate that where we are standing in terms of the marginal cost of money. So these two things, at least because we don't have that much time to cover the feasibility, financial feasibility study in detail, but two components of a financial feasibility study are the break-even point and the return on investment, which are very important in comparing businesses, especially the ROI one. So this is the last slide which I wanted to share, that earlier in these kind of courses, we have 3 or 4 accounting sessions, so we could discuss the accounting model in detail, which I proposed to the startups and entrepreneurs, a very easy to follow accounting model in Excel. But since we don't have time, so we cannot discuss that accounting model, but I have made some videos in Urdu, which you can follow on this YouTube channel. So if you want, there are few videos which if you can see, and there are a few examples as well. If some of you are trying to manage their accounts in a formal manner without using any software, without incurring any additional amount of money, then this is a very easy to pursue model. And by the way, this model is a formal accounting model. It means that if you do accounting according to this model, it's very easy to show your accounting to anybody who is who is in the business world. So it's a standard model which is according to the protocols of the accounting profession, like the balance sheet and the income statement, and without the use of debits and credits. So some of you would have heard the term debit and credit, but these are not the mandatory terms for maintaining accounts. So I have tried to demonstrate a simple and easy to use accounting model. If some of you is interested, you can make use of it.